ASP Russell joins me for another Police and News segment. I always thank him for his commitment for being here bright and early to treat with the very important matters. So it's a learning curve for all of us and a couple of different talking points this morning. But as always, compliments to you and your team.
Well, compliments to you, Jason, and a pleasant good morning, Trinidad Tobago, on behalf of the Commissioner of Police, Deputy Commissioners, Assistant Commissioners, and First and Second Division Officers of the esteemed Trinidad Tobago Police Service.
Let me ask you just a very quick question before we get into our talking points. Someone called this week with a complaint of a car with a clearly modified muffler making noise in the St. James and Woodbrook area. I know you're from the West End side of things. Is that cause or is that particular complaint one that officers take serious? Is a modified muffler a car that is moving through the area, real loud? You know it's muffler sound, the kind of explosion and the noise we hear. Is that something that's unlawful, and what could be done to remedy that situation?
It would more fall, as far as I could remember, under the Environmental Act, especially when you're looking at all modifications to your vehicle. After you do any modification, you ought to go back to license office to have that vehicle inspected to ensure its road safety and road worthiness. There are persons who are, and you would see within recent time, there's quite a trend and a shift. There's this bigger culture now of off-road vehicles where you would observe that a lot of persons are doing their own specs and modification and putting on lift kits onto these vehicles, and by law these vehicles should go back and be inspected by licensed authority to ensure its roadworthiness. Any modification you do, any additional light you put on your vehicle without the necessary permission is called an unauthorized light.
Okay.
So we have to be careful the modifications we make to our vehicles.
Thanks for that clarity. Just wanted to get that question out for the caller. Reckon in Port of Spain, I saw a lady up in arms, but in my mind, I think everybody knows you're currently parked by the Red House, and we have seen where, it's not something new. I myself would have given my own personal experience. Every time I would have been wrecked, I wasn't even wrong, to be quite honest. Took a chance, run in, come back out, car gone. But people, when they hold in their head and ball and they say, some of the wrecking in town is unjust. What's the current feedback? Are people curbing their behavior? Is the wrecker creating a shift in the rhythm of the city?
Well, I would want to say definitely yes. And I myself parked my vehicle recently, and I was very close up, just marginal, to the corner line, the yellow marker that it happened. We ask persons to be observant and to pay attention. Sometimes you may park in a spot and the actual parking sign may be a bit lower down the road. We ask that you pay attention to these things. You do the necessary inquiries. And because I know I was marginal, I came out, I did that due diligence, and I took a picture of where I parked. If you're in doubt, you can't take a picture of where you park.
Could that picture get you out of the car lot if indeed your picture shows that you are within the line, you're within the law, they would have made a mistake? I mean, the way it seems to me, like when you go there, it's like you must pass that 500 to get back your car. Could you ever win them in that particular scenario if your picture shows, listen, I'm in the right and you guys are in the wrong?
Well, you would definitely have to go through the courts of law.
Yeah, go through the court.
You see, once the wrecker picks up that vehicle, most of the times we go with you. The officer has a responsibility as well, because the wrecker driver, he operates the wrecker, but there's an officer on board each wrecker that gives the directive as to which vehicle has committed the breach and should be wrecked. The officer has a responsibility to come out and make some inquiries to see if he can find the owner, because the wrecking is the last thing that the Trinidad Tobago Police Service want to do, because we understand the inconvenience associated with being wrecked. What I would have recognized is that the parking lots are a bit more accessible now. Sometimes they were in areas that it was difficult to walk to or even get a taxi to go there. So we still try to work with persons as time go by. I know there was some people on TV recently, somewhere they went and they interviewed persons, and they indeed got wrecked, but they understood that you know.
No, if we're honest, I mean, I was honest. I'm honest with myself. I wasn't wrong. And I think that obviously I would have said publicly on the program, I'm kind of happy the record is back because we were doing the most. We could not self-regulate. We can't govern ourselves. People were double parking by fire hydrant, parking on taxi stand. I've never seen that before, a man parking on taxi stand, you know. Taxis can't even maneuver. So, my final question with the wrecking. Yes, I think it's for all of us to curb and to, you know, find a car park and just try to probably take a picture, because interestingly, I've seen officers also taking pictures.
Definitely.
When they wreck, they actually take a picture too. So it's picture versus picture. But let me ask you though, if the wheels are in motion, the car up as yet, they probably sort of put the apparatus to get the car and you reach on the scene. Could you get a blind? What happens in that moment? Is that up to discretion, or legally you have to follow through because the ball already rolling?
Once the car is not being raised and you come, once the car has not been raised, once you appear on the scene, they should issue you a fixed penalty ticket for the offense, right? If the car is being raised and the vehicle hasn't rolled off, the officer should err on the side of caution and release the vehicle. But you see, once the wreckers start to roll off with that vehicle, you're considered as being wrecked. The thing is, you know, people quarrel about the wrecker fee, which is $500, right? But when you look at the fixed penalty cost, most of the time it starts at $1,000. Failure to pay, there's an interest that is added on. So, you know, we have to ask ourselves if it's worth parking indiscriminately. And another thing too we would also see is that I know persons also complain about persons who put cones on the road to block spots. That is another issue that, you know, should be addressed as well. Now, I understand there are businesses who would be expecting deliveries and would need that, so I understand that, but, you know, nobody really has the authority to block off the road like that.
Really quick again, before we come off the wrecker issue and go to social media scams. For anybody's car that receives some kind of damage, let's say a bumper gets compromised, those with the, they don't have the normal handbrakes, they have the kind of electronic brakes, and for some reason, there's some kind of issue with the suspension or the tire or whatever. Is there any, once there's damage to the car, what's the recourse? What happens
You
then?
would have to go through the court of law.
Court of law
Courts
again?
of law, yeah, and I know it would take some time. I suffered like that. I had a vehicle that was all-wheel drive. I mean, the record the officer did not know, and they wrecked it, and my diff was destroyed. I left it as it is because, I mean, I parked indiscriminately.
You wasn't wrong too?
As well, so I accepted my faith, and I mean, yes, it cost me, but it's through the courts of law.
Okay, just wanted to get a clarity. Thanks for that. Social media scams, getting into Christmas. I want us to touch on that again because it's going to come up, and we don't want anybody to really get caught and to find themselves feeling sad in this most joyous time.
Well, you know, I'm happy that we're dealing with that this week. One of my colleagues called me yesterday, almost to tears. He was like, Russell, we don't know what again to do. Persons are still putting monies into accounts for vehicles that they have not seen. The Facebook marketplace continue to give us some trouble. What we are also seeing now amongst business owners, and I want to put business owners on their guard. I know there's a difficulty in accessing Forex. However, be careful, be mindful as to who you attempt to purchase US from. There was an incident we were treating with recently, the TTPS that is, where a woman purchased 4,000 US. All were counterfeit.
Every single note?
Every single note. So we understand you're looking at sales, we understand there's a shortage, but please do not make any irresponsible and reckless decisions that will see you end up a victim of crime.
Wow, counterfeit, boy. So we have to be on alert for that.
Yes.
Well, I'll let you have the final say in the couple seconds that remain because we have to take that pause very soon.
Well, you know, Trinidad and Tobago, as we approach the Christmas season, we want to know the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We are out there. We have increased our patrols. We are paying attention. We are looking at you. We are doing our best to work with you to ensure that you have a safe and enjoyable shopping experience within every town, district, mall throughout Trinidad and Tobago. We ask that if you see something, say something and continue to support the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Hold us accountable as we strive to create a safer Trinidad and Tobago, and most of all, to protect and serve with pride.
Well said, ASP Russell. I must say, truth be told, I've been seeing the increased presence. I'm seeing officers patrolling in Sawa on the main road. I haven't seen that in years. So
No,
I'm saying,
thank you.
I'm saying nice, you know, and they're moving in twos.
Yeah.
And they're walking and, you know, the place nice and calm. So give thanks. ASP Russell touching base with us. For sure, Police and you on this Thursday morning. We head to the 7 a.m. news and we come back with your mental health matters. And Rome, the Prince of Parang later on.